is life, and it is on the basis of this that every single human on the planet look for food for survival. Because food is the foundation of our growth and healthy living, yet it is affected by a series of avoidable dangers from every angle. We can strengthen our food systems and change the narrative through a new approach to improved food availability and healthy diet.
Welcome to Urban Family Farming,
where we explore the exciting world of urban farming. Learn how to transform your living space into a green oasis with our expert tips and tricks. Join us on a journey towards sustainable living and discover the joy of growing your own food in the heart of the city.
So this is how to make a nursery. If you want to make a nursery in a greenhouse, or you are making a nursery before you transplant it into your garden, okay? The first thing, after you've identified the crop that you want to grow, you want to get what we call a potting soil, okay? A potting soil looks like this. It is not soil, okay? It can be what we call cocoa peat, okay? Cocoa peat is made from the hard shell of coconut. It's grounded and then chelated nutrients are added to it. However, this is potting soil, okay? It's not sand, it's not topsoil. It's different from that, okay? You can Google it up and check up the meaning and then check up for example. So this is potting soil. So you get potting soil, okay? And then get a bucket, all right? Normally, these potting soils come in different sizes. There's potting soil that comes in 50, we call it 50 liters. And there are potting soils that come in 70 liters, okay? So the idea is that this potting soil come in a bag. And that bag, you will see 50 liters. And then you will see the other ones, 70 liters, okay? The liters there is telling you the quantity of water that this potting soil is supposed to absorb before you start putting it into the nursery tray. Okay, so the idea is that after you've gotten your peat moss or you've gotten your potting soil, you get a bucket or a container, pour the potting soil inside the container, and then you bring your water, all right? Just your normal water from the tap or from your well, wherever. And then you pour it into the bucket where the potting soil is. Now, as you pour the water, you keep stirring. You keep stirring. As you're pouring the water, you will notice that the potting soil will begin to swell. It will start absorbing the moisture, the water that you are putting into the bucket. So as you're pouring the water, make sure you pay attention to the point where the water is fully, the potting soil has fully absorbed the moisture, the water. Okay? When that has happened, you will leave the potting soil in the bucket for at least 8 hours. I normally leave my own overnight. I put the water, put the potting soil, put it in the bucket, and then keep it and allow it overnight. Okay? After the potting soil have absorbed enough moisture and has become soft enough, I will now begin to transfer the potting soil. Now this one, the potting soil is now the one that have absorbed the moisture, okay? So you take the potting soil and begin to fill them into this nursery tray. These are called nursery tray. There are different sizes of nursery tray. There's a nursery tray that is about 320 cells. There are others that are 180 cells, but this one is just 128 cells. So you fill in the moist potting soil into the cells. These are called cells. You put the potting soil into the cells. You fill it in. Make sure you fill it in deep enough. You keep putting it until it is completely filled to the top like this. So you press it. If it goes down, you take extra, pour it again, and press it. And then you do that all across. Don't forget, the potting soil you are using is not the dry one. The potting soil you are using is the potting soil that have already absorbed the water, absorbed the moisture, we call it. So you make sure that it is well absorbed and it has stayed for like a minimum of 6 to 8 hours or overnight. Then you start putting it into the nursery tray. So put it press it down, press it down, and ensure that there is no gap inside the cells. As you are putting it, you are pressing it out, you are ensuring that there's no gap inside the cells. So press it down enough, and then add where necessary. And you keep doing that until you fill up the entire nursery tray. All right, so you leave it, you fill it up like this, and after you filled it up to the top, you press it down, ensure that it's filled up enough to the top. But then you create some form of hole here in the middle. Just press it a little enough to just create some level of depression here. Just slight depression. Let it not be too deep, just slight depression, because that is where you're going to put your seed. So you get your nursery tray, moisten your potting soil or your cocoa pit, allow it to soak enough for like 6 to 8 hours or overnight, and then press it into your nursery tray. Press it in enough to make sure that there is no space in the cells. And after you've done that, then you pick your seed. You take your seed and then get somewhere where you can pour it, maybe on a tray or whatever you intend to use. And then after you've poured it there, these are habanero seeds, okay? Then you pick the seed one after the other. Please make sure you pay attention to this. You pick the seed one after the other. Every seed has something that looks like an eye. Okay, you've zoomed it. So every seed you see normally has something that looks like an eye on the edge, okay? So when you are putting this seed in the cell, make sure that you put the seed in the middle of the cell, not on the edge of the cell, but in the middle of the cell. And ensure that the part of the seed that has that part that looks like the eye is facing sideways, okay? Sometimes people used to complain and say that they planted the seed, but after planting it, the seed didn't germinate. If you take the part that looks like the eye and you put it down, the seed will germinate, but the seed will be growing downward into the cell. You understand that? So what you need to do is to make sure that the seed you are putting into the cell, you are placing it sideways. Sideways, because normally if you look at a seed, the seed will start growing from the side, not from the middle, but from the side, because the eye is always always at the side of the seed, okay? So when you put it in the middle, ensure it's at the middle of the cell. As you put it there, slightly cover the seed. Make sure it's slightly. If you cover it too thick, the seed is going to die inside. So you slightly cover it with the peat moss. Slightly cover it with the peat moss. When you do that for every one of the cells, but please make sure that you don't put more than one seed in every one of the cells. Don't put more than one seed in each of the cells. Make sure it's one seed, and the one seed is at the middle of the cell. And make sure that the seed eye is planted horizontally. It's planted horizontally in the middle of the cell, so that when the seed begins to grow out, it can find ease to grow out to the surface of the nursery tray, okay? Then cover the surface lightly, cover the surface thinly. So now you've planted your seed into the nursery tray. Don't forget, put the seed in the middle, okay? And after you've done that, use your hand to cover it thinly, just thinly on the surface. Don't cover it too deep. If you cover it too deep, the seed will not come out, okay? So just thinly cover it. And then you get a hand spray, okay? This is just a simple hand spray. You can get this anywhere in the market. And then you spray on top of the seed like this. You keep spraying like this until the surface is evenly moist. Don't forget, the peat moss must have drained some water now because you have transferred it here, and then the time you took to put the seeds into the cells, the water will have drained. So use this, moisten the surface long enough until the surface of the nursery tray is moistened. So when you have done that, the next thing you're going to do is that you will take this nursery tray with the seed, okay? Now, listen to this. Depending on the type of seed you have planted, if you plant, for example, bell pepper, habanero, these are seeds that take longer time before they germinate and start to sprout out. So you need to get you need to understand the type of seed you plant. Because sometimes, I know in some cases, I've seen some people who planted bell pepper, and then after 3 days, they now came, they say, the seed didn't germinate, but the cucumber I planted, all of them have sprouted out, and they were discouraged and they thought the seed has failed. No, in some cases, some habanero and bell pepper sometimes take as long as 14 days, 10 to 14 days in some cases, before they start to sprout out. So you want to make sure that you know the gestation period of the seed that you have planted, so that you can know what to do and know what to expect after certain days after planting, okay? So now you take this one that you have planted, you get a polythene bag. It could be a leather that you use to collect dustbin in your house. It could be a sack, maybe like a cement sack or whatever sack you have. Take this nursery tray, put it inside, cover it very well, okay? Wrap it up very well. It depends on where you are. Different locations have different temperature difference, and that will also play out how the seed is going to germinate. So cover it properly. Make sure you cover it properly so that you can generate heat, because the heat will be necessary for the germination of the seed. Okay, so make sure you cover it properly and look for a safe place. Sometimes it could be your kitchen cabinet or somewhere very safe, or maybe under your bed in your bedroom. Okay, you take this tray. Now don't forget, it's covered tray. Put it under your bed or put it in your kitchen cabinet and leave it there for 3 days. Don't forget, like I've said, it depends on the seed that you have planted. Different seed have different gestation period, okay? But generally, 3 days maximum. Whatever seed should have started germinating. So after 3 days, you bring out your nursery. But by this time around, it is expected that you would have started seeing the sign of the seeds already beginning to sprout. You would have started seeing sign. You see little spot, white spots everywhere. That means that the seed have done very well. Now, if the seed you got is very good seed, that means you should be expecting something like 95% and seed germination, which means you would have seen something like around 60 to 70% white spots all over the tray. Okay? So after that, you look for a safe place. A safe but elevated place. It could be a place maybe you can get 9 inches blocks, get like 2 9 inches block, raise it up from the ground, and then put the nursery tray on top of it. If you don't raise it from the ground, over time, when you irrigate the nursery, you will discover that the water is not going down, it's not draining. And if it's not draining, then the water in the cells will begin to accumulate. And as the water accumulates, the root of the seed that is growing in the nursery tray will just naturally start decaying, okay? So what you want to do is that you want to elevate it from the ground. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is, if you don't elevate it from the ground, those lizards are going to come and they're going to eat off all these little seedlings that are already growing in the tray. So make sure you always elevate the nursery tray from the ground. So when you do that, you come every day for 2 weeks. Now you have a full-time job. So you come once in the morning and in the evening, okay? If you are in an environment where the climate of the place or the temperature is very close, places like Jos, then you don't necessarily have to irrigate it twice a day. But if you're in a place where the temperature is very high, then you want to make sure that you irrigate the nursery twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, morning and evening, morning and evening. And the way you irrigate it is that because the seedlings are very tender at this stage. You don't want to come with your bucket of water and just come and start pouring it on top of the nursery like this. When you do that, the weight of the water, you can see that, the weight of the water is naturally going to destroy the seedlings. It's just going to break the seedlings. So you want to still make sure that you are using the hand spray, okay? So you come with your hand spray and then you spray like this. You keep spraying like this. You spray like this continually, morning and evening, and then you spray like this until you find out that the water is not going down. So this thing is going to take time, okay? But you're going to get a result that will make you happy at the end of it. So just keep spraying like this. You go around, you come back, you go around, you come back. You keep doing this until the surface of the tray and the peat moss has become wet enough that the water is not going down anymore. You do that morning and evening, morning and evening. In 3 days after that, I can assure you everywhere will be fully covered and you will see all the seeds are already sprouting and they are doing very well, okay? So you do that continuously for like 2 weeks, 14 days maximum. If you've done that for 2 weeks, you would have noticed that the seeds have already grown very well. So you want to now start introducing what we call nursery fertilizer, or we call chelated elements. What you do is that you get those fertilizer NPKs, okay? So there are different NPKs. There's 20-10-10, there's 20-20-20, but you want to be very, very careful with that, because if the fertilizer is not carefully mixed, the fertilizer is going to destroy the seedlings. So I will always advise that you get the consultant or get an agronomist to tell you the right mixture that you need to use in the water, in the mixture in the water, before you start spraying it on the seeds, okay? On the seedlings now. So get the right mixture. If the fertilizer is too much and you put it on the seedlings, it's naturally going to kill it, because the nitrogen will naturally burn off the seedlings. But if the fertilizer is put in the right mixture, as you put it in another 1 week, I can assure you that your nursery will be ready for what we call transplanting, okay? So make sure that you take care of your nursery well. If you don't take care of your nursery well, your greenhouse will naturally fail. It is the outcome of your nursery that determines how good and how great your greenhouse is going to be later. So let's assume this is 3 weeks after your seeds have become seedlings, they are ready for transplant. Now, one of the ways you know they are ready for transplant is that you will see that they must have formed and established 2 leaves. You will see 2 leaves on top of the seedling. Let's assume this is the seedling. You will notice that 2 leaves have been formed and the 2 leaves are well developed. Then you look at the stem of the seedlings. You will notice that the stem of the seedling is thick enough for transplanting. Please remember this. Where you are going to put this nursery tray is in the greenhouse. Elevate it in the greenhouse. It will have enough sunlight. The sunlight is not going to do anything. It depends on how you take care of it and the timing you water it. It's not going to affect it. Some people put it under the tree. If you put it under the tree, there will be too much shade. And naturally, the stem of the seedling is going to be very, very slim. And if it's very slim, when you come to transplant it, the stem is going to be breaking off, okay? So make sure that you add that fertilizer. It will help you develop better. The stems will be well developed. The leaves will be well developed. It will form the 2 leaf, and those 2 leaves are necessary as necessary indicators for transplanting. So when you have done that and you've gotten your 2 leaf, or you've gotten a 2 to 2.5 centimeters height of seedling, it means it's ready for transplant. So you carry your nursery, okay? If it's outside the greenhouse, take it to the greenhouse. If it's in the greenhouse, then you carry your nursery. And remember this, you don't do transplanting in the afternoon. If you transplant your seedlings in the afternoon, the seedlings are naturally going to die. Because at that point, it's like somebody that has just incurred an injury, and then you carry that injury and put it under the sun. Okay, it's just naturally going to cause more pain, so the plants will naturally die. So what you need to do is that when you are ready for transplant, that means you have irrigated your greenhouse, you've prepared your greenhouse, you've gotten it ready for transplanting. You will now take your nursery in the evening, something like around 4 or 5. Anyway, it depends on your location as well. If you are in northern Nigeria where the temperature is very high, you want to do that transplanting in the evening. But if in places where the weather is cold, or in the time where the weather is cold, you can actually transplant at any time of the day. The real thing you want to avoid is the time of the day where the sun is so high, it will naturally affect the nursery. So before you start transplanting, carry your hand spray again. Spray, moisten the surface. And after you've moistened the surface, that means it will be easy to remove the nursery from the nursery tray. So you are going to get something like a spoon or something with a flat edge. Okay? When you get something with a flat edge, you take it, okay, and then you put it at the edge of the cell. Now don't forget, the cell is already moistened, which means it will be soft to remove. So you touch the edge of the cells. You just touch the edge, and then you press it down to the lower part of the cell, and then you push it up. You push it up like this. If you push it up like this, the seedling is just going to come out together with the cell. Don't forget, the cell will have been established properly now. So as you put it at the edge, you just touch the edge. Don't forget, you've moistened it so that it will be easy to remove. Then you press it down enough and press it up. You press it up, you will just find that seedling will just come out so beautiful to look at. You just remove it, and then you go to your ridges, and then where the irrigation pipe are, where the emitters are, and then you transplant it in that particular location. So basically, this is what it takes to do a nursery for a greenhouse or for your garden.